Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys joining me on this fine Monday, November 27th. We have a great lineup for you today. We got Coach Saban. We got Jalen Milroe at the podium. You got Kirby Smart. This is the week that we've been looking forward to. AKA the SEC title is also known as the real national title game, in my opinion. Look, let's go over the college football storylines. I'm going to take you guys' calls. We're going to have a good time right here on Bama Football on YouTube. So when we look at the storylines of college football this past week, you have Georgia 31, Georgia Tech 23. Milton ran for 156, 2 touchdowns. Georgia riding a 29-game winning streak, going into the SEC title against the Alabama Crimson Tide. The Ohio State Buckeyes, who were ranked number 2 on the season, fell to Michigan 24-20. Ryan Day now 1-3 versus the Michigan Wolverines. The Michigan Wolverine 30-24. The play of J.J. McCarthy was pretty impressive. He threw some nice tight window passes. Blake Corum ran for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Florida State survives Florida 24-15 in the swamp. Rodemaker, who is the backup quarterback, 134 yards passing. Their running back Benson had 95 yards and 3 touchdowns. Washington survives once again against Washington State 24-21. Kicked the last-second field goal to beat Washington State. Oregon defeats Oregon State 31-7. Bo Nix has been on fire this season. Later on in this season, 367 yards with 2 touchdowns. Then you have Texas Tech 57, Texas Tech. And then everybody knows what happened on Saturday night as the Crimson Tide defeated the Auburn Tigers 27-24. Milroe 259 yards and the 4th and 31. My goodness, where were you when the 4th and 31 happened, right? So I'm going to take your calls today. The call line is open. I appreciate you guys joining me today. And I think, going into this week, there's so much to talk about, right? You have the SEC title game, and I have a couple graphics that I want to kind of run through before I do take your calls. And I think some of this does revolve around the college football playoff talk, right? So when you look to BetMGM, who has updated odds to win the national title for this year's college football championship, you have Michigan, who is plus 190, Georgia at plus 210, Oregon at plus 500, Alabama at plus 800. Those numbers right there, those odds are really, honestly, the best 4 college football teams. Now, how are they going to merge those teams into the playoffs? I guess we're going to have to see here in the next couple of weeks. And then on the right side, you have Texas at plus 900, Washington at plus 1,800, Florida State at plus 2,500, Ohio State at plus 4,000. The interesting thing about this is you have Washington, and these guys are ranked 4 whatever in the AP poll and likely in the college football playoff rankings. They've won their last 2 games by a total of 4 points or something like that. So kind of the back end play. In fact, they are a 9.5-point underdog against Oregon this coming weekend. So if they're so good, why are they a continued underdog in some of these later games? Texas is going to play Oklahoma State. Michigan is going to play Iowa, where they are a 23.5-point favorite in that particular game. And then Georgia opens up as a 4.5-point favorite against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Florida State is a 3.5-point favorite against Louisville. Which of those teams do you think is going to go down in the conference championship weekend? And again, Ohio State at the bottom right of your screen will not play in a conference title game because Ohio State and Michigan are on the same side of the Big Ten. This is an interesting graphic. I put up this today, so check this out. This is the record versus current college football playoff top 25 teams, okay? So the teams that are only ranked in the top 25 as of today. And the updated rankings will be released on Tuesday. So not when Colorado was ranked number 19, because everybody knows that Colorado was a pretender. So these are based off the teams as of today, which I think teams should be ranked off as of today. So current playoff teams and the records versus top 25 teams. So you have Alabama, and this is alpha order. This isn't in any sort of ranking. Alabama at the top, 3-1 against top 25 teams in the playoff rankings. Beat Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee, lost to Texas. Florida State 1-0, beat number 14 LSU way back in week 1. Georgia 3-0 on the season, beat Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Missouri. Michigan 2-0, beat Penn State and Ohio State. Ohio State 2-1, beat Penn State. Notre Dame and lost to Michigan. Oregon is 1-1, beat Oregon State and lost to Washington. Texas is 1-1, beat Alabama, lost to Oklahoma. And the interesting thing about Texas, they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa and they lost to Oklahoma on a neutral site setting. Washington 2-0 beat Oregon and Oregon State. So I think that's an interesting graphic, and what that tells me is, like, how are these teams doing against top 25 current teams? And I think sometimes when we look to these rankings, we get so caught up in how did they do overall in the season against top 25 teams that weren't really top 25 teams. I mean, can you say really that, I keep using Colorado as a reference point, because if we're going to go back and count Alabama's loss against Texas, then we have to count, how everybody thought that Colorado was a true top 25 team, when everybody knows how teams transform throughout the season, right? So it's important to look at and to rank, most importantly, how the teams are playing towards this back end of the season. And clearly this top 8, the one thing that they all have in common is they continue to win outside of Ohio State, which was one of those top 8 teams to win. So I have a couple questions that I have before I will take your guys' calls. Here's a look at Alabama's kind of the overall, and these are some of the show topics that we will talk about today. But I have a graphic that I wanted to ask you guys about, and has kind of to do with the questions going into the playoff rankings, because when you look to these current playoff rankings, and here's a look to kind of the college football playoff race, you have Georgia, who's 12-0 and play Alabama at the bottom. Number 2, Ohio State, and these are based off the last rankings, how these teams are doing. But I do have some questions about the rankings in the top 8, and I will get to the resumes here in a second. But I want to see, most importantly, where is the committee going to rank a team like Ohio State, right? Because I think when you have Ohio State, and these are my playoff ranking related questions going into this week, right? So who's the best undefeated? Georgia, Michigan, Washington, or Florida State? Who's the best one-loss team? Bama, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon. And as you can see, one of my biggest questions is number 5, is Florida State a playoff type team without Jordan Travis? And then number 6 as well, where does the committee rank Ohio State? And I'm wondering if, since Ohio State just lost to number 3 Michigan, is that going to hurt them? I'm kind of curious to get your opinions today. But with that said, I appreciate you guys joining me. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you guys joining me. And let's definitely go to the call-in line. So 202, I appreciate you being patient. Let's get it started. Hey, hello, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from? Hello, are you there? Can't really hear you. Okay. I put you back in the call queue, so let's see if we can get you on here in a few minutes. All right, Mike in Austin. Mike, what's up, man?
Good morning. Good morning, Kyle. Good morning. How are you doing this post-Thanksgiving week? How you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. I mean, I have several questions posted, and I want to just quickly ask you, I mean, where does the committee rank Ohio State following their loss to Michigan?
I say they rank them the same place the coaches poll and the AP poll has ranked them. Number 6, they'll rank them the highest one-loss team that there is. Mm-hmm. And you know my opinion, Cobb. I've been saying it all year. You know my opinion. The Big Ten is privileged. They're overrated, and Michigan is nothing but a bunch of posers. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. But and like I've been saying, they already had 2 spots reserved for the Big Ten, no matter what. And this is just more proof of it. From this point, I would not doubt to see Washington lose, possibly another Florida State possibly lose, or somebody like that, mm-hmm. and then Ohio State get in there as a number 4 team. Mm-hmm. I would not doubt to see that. So I say they're going to probably, I say definitely what they'll do is put Ohio State number 6 as the number one-loss team in the country, which in my opinion is just a tragedy, in my college football tragedy, in my opinion. Because I know that, to me, maybe I'm biased, which I am, but that Michigan-Ohio State game, that was the most uneventful, boring game I've seen in a long time, personally. I mean, so I just expected more out of it, but they're both very average teams, and all they have to ride on is their privilege, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. on with Mike and Austin. Hey, Mike, so walk us through kind of where you were during the 4th and 31 and your thoughts on how Alabama finished out against Auburn. I mean, it was simply electric. People are going to remember that game for, the rest of eternity. And, kind of walk us through your 4th and 31 moment.
Will do, man. Kyle, really, that's one of the many good memories I have with Alabama football. But where I was in San Antonio watching the game with my brother, sitting on his couch. We already both had about 12 beers each, and we're 3 sheets to the wind. But, dude, I had not given up, man. I had not given up. I can see because I know how good the Iron Bowl is. I know how college football is. If there's still 2 seconds and there's still less than 6 points, there's a chance, man. There's a chance. I've seen it play out too many times. So I mean, it was a miracle play. It was a miracle play, no doubt about that. But I was jumping for joy, man. I was so happy to see it. And what got me is this: after that play went down, if you look, Milrose stood there for about 5 seconds, just looking around in total disbelief of what he's seeing here. You know what I mean? So that was the most funny part about it, was Milrose just standing there like, what in the heck just played out, man? And but it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And like we were all saying going into that, or most of us, the Iron Bowl, you never know what you're going to get. You never that kind of stuff plays out about every other year. So you just got to stick with it. But I never gave up hope on Bama, because Bama, again, they shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. They kept shooting themselves in the foot. And then with that game, Kyle, that was the worst officiating.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying one way or the other benefited Bama, benefited Auburn. I don't know, but that was some of the worst officiating I've ever seen. 100%. And now, just like that short you posted, to where I think Auburn was clapping at the very last play, clapping to throw off the snap count. I mean, that official should be looking at that on that play, but that was horribly officiating. But I'm glad the good guys came out on top. But here in Texas, I already hear the locals talking about, well, if they just had, a last second play to beat Auburn, Alabama should be number 8, should be number 9, in my opinion. Alabama, they shouldn't be there last second play just to beat them guys. But yeah, just in my opinion, man, that was a great, great game. And also, I think Alabama's the best one-loss team that there is. If Texas is one ahead of them, okay, I get it. Texas beat them head-to-head. That's fair. Ohio State, in my opinion, man, this should have been an elimination game. They lost to a poser Michigan team, in my opinion. And Ohio State should have dropped back to number 8, man. But just like I think Ohio State already has a spot reserved in the playoffs, just like Michigan does. I don't know what this is the worst committee I've ever seen. Just like last year when they let TCU, the Big 12 runner-up, they let them in over Alabama. They were just trying. Alabama's number 5. They were just trying to keep Bama out, and that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to keep Texas out, trying to keep Bama out. They know they're SEC and future SEC teams. That's just in my opinion, dude. But it's a tragedy, in my opinion, having Ohio State only drop to number 6, be the one-loss team. And that Michigan game, man, Michigan-Ohio State game, wake me up when it's over, dude. That was the most – I know it was like a one-score game, but my God, how eventful – in my opinion, that was a lame game. Like, where's the speed? Where's the excitement? It was like football in slow motion, man. I mean, in my opinion, Georgia and Bama would crush them 2 teams, dude. But we'll see how that plays out. But right now, dude, Alabama, I hate to say, they're still on the outside looking in. And these past few weeks, there hasn't been enough losses. Florida State hasn't lost. I thought they would. They haven't lost. And honestly, man, even without their quarterback, if they win out, they deserve to probably be in. I mean, if they win out, even without their quarterback, if they win out, they deserve to be in. Ohio State doesn't deserve to be in. They can't beat the Michigan posers. And then Washington, Oregon, who knows what you really got there. I don't think they're as strong as Alabama and Georgia. I don't think they are, but I can see one or both of them getting in, But bottom line is, Kyle, Bama needs some help, man. They need to beat Georgia, and they need to beat Georgia convincingly. Because, and then another thing, too, like what the committee's got to look at, what if Bama beats Georgia by 1 or 2 points? Is Georgia going to drop all the way out? No, they shouldn't drop all the way out. I mean, so, I don't know, that we need the 12-team playoff this year more than ever. But bottom line is, to answer your question, Ohio State will probably be number 6 because this committee, the committee needs to pull their head out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with Mike and Austin. I'll get to my next callers. We got a 256, 202, 251, and a 412 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Yeah, when you look to this Georgia resume and overall, I mean, one of the biggest questions that I have as well, I guess I should add this to my list of questions, is if Alabama was able to beat this incredibly talented Georgia team. I mean, you look at all this resume. Clearly, they have the best resume in all of college football right now, 3-0 against the top 25. They're currently riding a 29-game winning streak. You look at the teams that they recently beat: Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri. If Alabama is able to beat this team, can you imagine, does the committee take 2 teams from the SEC? Do they take Georgia? Do they just take Alabama? I mean, it's going to be really interesting. And I've had some calls in the past that have brought up really good points. If head-to-head matters, then Alabama's win over Georgia should matter just like Texas's win over Alabama does matter. So you get into now you look at the resumes and you put stuff on paper, and you have some of these other teams that only do have, that finish the season undefeated. But Mike, give me your quick take before I move to my next caller on Alabama versus Georgia, just kind of your opening thoughts on that game.
Well, that's a hard one to predict, Kyle. And the reason why, we all know Alabama is capable of beating Georgia. They're the only team capable of beating Georgia. But whether they do or not, I sure hope so. I mean, it's possible that they do. But as much as I hate to say it, Georgia's the best team in college football, and one of them playing the best college football. But if Alabama beats Georgia, if they do, Alabama has to go to the playoffs. I mean, how can they leave them out of the playoffs if they beat Georgia? Mm-hmm. And then, on the other hand, like I mentioned, if Georgia loses by a small margin, how do you drop them out of the playoffs? Mm-hmm. What they need to do, in my opinion, is get rid of these poser teams, which are Michigan and Ohio State, and then these other guys. I don't know what this one for the Pac-10 is, Oregon and Washington. They play no defense, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, Bama, I think Bama beat them with old-fashioned murder ball. But I don't know, man. I say I'm only just as bad as my team. I say they'll beat Georgia by a small margin. I think it'll be a fourth-quarter game. I think it'll come down to the very last plays of the game. But I think I'll say Bama's going to beat them like 25-23. That's going to be my prediction. 25-23. And when that happens, and if that happens, 25-23, I got to go with Bama, man, because Bama's the only team that's capable of beating Georgia, the only team capable of beating Georgia. But all right, Kyle, hey, man, enjoy your show. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again later in the week.
All right, man. See you, Mike. All right, take it easy. That was Mike out in Austin. 202, hang tight. I'm going to you next. We'll try to get you back on. I know we couldn't get you the first time. All right, so here's a look at the Florida State Seminoles overall resume. I'll put up some resumes throughout the show. Florida State riding a 12-game win streak, 12-0. Obviously, overall, 8-0 in ACC play. The thing about the ACC play, and this is the question I have. Okay, so you have Louisville, who's about to play in the ACC title game against Florida State. So Florida State is a 3.5-point favorite against Louisville. Who did Louisville just lose to? Kentucky. Who did Kentucky lose to? Who did they get crushed by this season? Georgia. And who else? By Alabama. So like the ACC to me is just not a conference that deserves to have a seat at the playoff table. They are 1-0 against current top 25 teams. And look, this is not the same team without Jordan Travis, 1,000,000%. Yeah, can they beat a Florida team at the Swamp? Great job. You beat a North Alabama? Great job. So going up against Louisville, I mean, who knows? If this team finishes 13-0, I still don't believe that they have a resume to get into the title game. But we're talking, college football, and we're also talking, this coming week against the SEC title. So I take your calls, and I appreciate you guys being here. Let's get your 202. Let's try to get you in. Hey, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from? Yeah, I don't know what's up with your phone, man. Sorry, I couldn't get you. I can't hear you. All right, 256, you're up next. Hey, thanks for joining. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Daryl from Huntsville.
What's up, Daryl? I appreciate you joining, man. Welcome to the show. Take it away.
Yes, sir. A momentous weekend.
Yep.
We saw the Crimson Thunderbolt in that game, And I've been saying for the last 10 years, I cry every time I see them. The worst officials
my goodness,
in college football is the SEC officials. It's no doubt. I want to know that you see the play when after they scored the touchdown, after Bama scored, and they had the ball at the 2-yard line when he dropped back in the end zone.
Yep,
and he fumbled. The guy, the offensive lineman, grabbed the guy, the Alabama lineman who was going to pick the ball up and recover for a touchdown. He grabbed his leg and tripped him up, and the referee stood right there and didn't throw the flag. This is just horrible.
I mean, look,
it's horrible.
Like Mike was saying on the last call, the illegal snap, which was a great question about the later part of the game. I mean, absolutely, that was an illegal call from Auburn, and that impacted the game significantly, right? Because that's what put Alabama in such the hole. So there was a lot of calls, even against Alabama too, like that face mask that they missed at the beginning. So I mean, the calls were absolutely atrocious, and one of the biggest ones too was the Jermaine Burton. He literally caught that. Like, what part of his cleat was out of bounds?
Well, I guess in Auburn, that's out of bounds in Auburn.
Yeah.
Because see, again, Auburn is just like Auburn has dirty tricks. Now I know some people gonna get mad at that, but let me refresh your memory. Do you remember 2015 when Henry was up for the Heisman Trophy? They cut the grass down to the quick. The grass was so slick that the referees were falling, the running backs were falling. It was horrible. Come on, man.
Yeah.
They did that on purpose. And I mean, and then again, the fact that on the kickoff, now you got an Auburn player that runs in and smacks the Alabama player and grabs him by the face mask, and not one flag.
Yeah,
no call.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it's just sad, and I hope the officials are not a factor in this Georgia game.
Mm-hmm.
I hope, because there's a big hope.
What's your take on as we start to look to this Georgia game, and I'm sure you've watched Georgia play a couple of times. I mean, it was interesting listening to Kirby Smart's SEC teleconference yesterday. He said that he hasn't really seen a lot of Alabama. I don't necessarily know if that's true. I'm not buying that, right? Like, with Georgia, he knows what Alabama has 100%. I mean, he didn't even really comment on Jalen Milroe, and I just thought that was interesting. But as we look to Georgia and this team, and we all know, how well they're playing, that 29-game winning streak and what they're doing, what's your thoughts on Alabama and Georgia, not even in terms of like playoff implications, but just how the teams match up and, kind of early keys to the game or things that, stand out to you when you look to Alabama versus Georgia?
Well, my early keys to the game is the fact that you got to stop Georgia's running game. If you don't stop their running game, you don't have a chance, because they do execute very well. They execute their offense very well, and they run a lot of rubs and picks and a lot of double routes. So you got to go in there. You got to make sure that you shut this running game. You can't allow 4 or 5 yards to carry on first down. You got to tackle. Georgia's a great tackling team. I watched them against Tennessee, and they didn't miss a tackle. They made Milton look, the quarterback at Tennessee, they made him look just like he was a has-been. When he threw the ball, they hurt us with the whole game, those little 5-yard flares. Georgia, it was 2 yards. And it's 2nd and 8. We got to keep Georgia in long. We got to make them go against the chains. In other words, it got to be 3rd down and 7, 3rd down and 8, 3rd and 9. It can't be 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3. We got to disrupt their offense. We got to affect the quarterback. Don't have to sack him necessarily, but make him get him off his spot. Make him nervous. Make him see crimson in his dreams. We got to affect him. And the second thing, we got to stop all these blown coverages. Every game we blow coverages. Every game we'll sit there and let a running back slip through after the guy's standing there like, are you going to make the tackle? Well, I thought he was going to make the tackle, and the guy's going for 40 yards. We can't afford any of that.
The thing about it, you look to this last game, and coming up, I have my 251, a 412. I think I got Demetrius and another 251. The fact that Auburn was able to run for almost 250 yards against Alabama, I think a couple things. Number one, like you said, you got to be able to stop the run, and Alabama has been able to do that the entire season, but I think Hugh Freeze just has a recipe for playing well against Coach Saban. But also, if you look to that game plan, I'm looking how were you able to run the football against this Crimson Tide defense. I think Mississippi State was able to do it. I think Texas A&M was able to do it, but nothing like Auburn was able to do it. Now, I get it. Auburn didn't throw for under 100 yards, and that was part of their game plan, was to be able to run the football, which they did. And I think Georgia, the thing that presents challenges for Alabama's defense is the fact that they are very balanced. So they can run the football. They can pass the football, and the play of the quarterback, Carson Beck, he's playing fantastic. Coach Saban talked about that yesterday. I'm sure he'll talk about that today when he hits the podium at 12 p.m. This is a well-balanced team. Let me ask you, Daryl, when you look to this Georgia team and you look to Kirby Smart, how do you see Kirby Smart? Do you see him as kind of more the villain? Do you see him as kind of a respected coach? I mean, and I ask that because he has completely separated himself from anything that really happened at Alabama. And I get it. He's building his own brand of what he's done. I mean, do you think this is the next great coach of college football?
I would probably say yes. Because what he's done, of course, he is a Saban disciple. He's been with Nick Saban over 10 years. And so, but what I think is kind of hurtful and spiteful, the fact that he tries to ignore Alabama, even the mention of Alabama, of any mention whatsoever. Yes, and I think that's kind of spiteful because again, virtually every coach I know, Bobby Bowden, played at Alabama. Bobby Bowden wanted to be Alabama's next coach because he grew up an Alabama fan. He grew up a Bear Bryant disciple, and so once you have a disciple, you don't ever go ahead and slander the master. And I think he slandered Nick in a lot of ways. I think that's hurtful, and I think it's spiteful, and I think there's nothing wrong with establishing your own brand, and he's done that. He's done that, but you can't deny. Where did you learn? Where did you get your beginning? Who gave you the opportunity? Where did you learn? How did you learn? How did you learn under? Now, see, I'm gonna say something that might make people mad. I don't consider Nick Saban the greatest coach of all time. Now, why do I say that? Because I grew up watching Bear Bryant, so I consider them 1A and 1B. They're just the same to me. They're the two greatest coaches in the history of college football. So for Kirby to do what he's doing, I mean, even at the SEC media days, he was almost like, Alabama who? Yeah. No, I think we might have. Daryl, you still there? Yeah, I'm here. All right, Daryl. I got to break out to my next caller, but yeah, I was curious to get your take on Kirby Smart because kind of when I look to him and I kind of looked at how he's positioned himself, it's pretty amazing. I mean, Coach Saban was very complimentary of him yesterday, and rightfully so. I mean, that's kind of Coach Saban. But Kirby, what he's doing at Georgia is certainly standing out. And I think if you're an opposing college coach out there, I mean, this Georgia team isn't just kind of a Clemson. Like these guys are going to be here because they have the resources. They're in the SEC, and it's been really amazing to see kind of that transformation, especially from the offensive side too, because he now has a balanced approach. Right. But with that said, I think he does kind of shy away from the Alabama stuff, which I think has added to the rivalry of this game. But I appreciate you calling in, and please call again next time. All right, Kyle, always my pleasure. Absolutely, man. All right, take it easy, Daryl. All right, we got a 251, a 412 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We'll dive right into it. Let me know in your comments, what do you see how do you guys see Kirby Smart, and has that kind of added fuel to this rivalry? I think overall, too, there's so much at stake in this game. That's why I have it positioned up at the top right. Like, what's at stake with this game? And I think there's so much at stake, not only the SEC title, but the playoff implications, but I think going forward a ton, right? When you look to recruiting, kind of the king of the
the mountain. This dynasty could really be established at Georgia if they're able to win 3 in a row. I mean, this could be the team now in college football. And, there's a lot on the line and kind of the passing of the torch. I think Kirby Smart would love to be kind of that next guy at the top of the college football mountain. With that said, there's so much life of Nick Saban. I mean, it's been really interesting to follow these. I don't know. Have you guys noticed this? These last 2 games, Coach Saban's how sharp he is in terms of his recollection of past games. Like when he blew up that Auburn reporter, how he's able to remember these fine details, and now he's able to go back. I mean, Coach Saban is just so sharp in terms of what he remembers from these games, right? Think about all the games, all the plays, all this stuff, and man, he's just completely dialed in. I've been really admiring that recently. Okay, we go right back to the phone lines, and we got a 251. Let's get it going. Hey, thanks for joining me on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who I'm on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Brian from Groveville, Alabama, but I originally live in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, bro. Roll Tide. Good morning. How you doing,
Roll Tide to you, man. I appreciate you calling in, man. Talk about 4th and 31. Where were you? And what was going through your mind when the ball was snapped? Talk about your 4th and 31.
I was at work, man. I was watching it on my phone. I was just getting off work, man. And then when I saw Jalen Miro threw that ball to Isaiah Bond, bro, I was in my car just shaking like hell. You're like, yes. And the guys in my job was looking outside. They say, dang, he happy too. Cause I was like, hey, man, I don't know who y'all are, bro. I'm an Alabama fan. He's like, yeah, we watched it too. Yeah. I was like, I don't give a dang, man. I don't give a damn how we played. I just like how we will stand there and being poised, man. Man, we are Alabama, man. We Alabama. We will find ways to win. Auburn played their best, and we played our worst, and we still won the game. And Kyle, let me say this, man.
Yo.
It was 3 things that reminded me when Jalen Miro threw that touchdown pass. Number 1, 2 years ago, Bryce Young to Corey Brooks.
Yep.
That set up the overtime. The same way. And number 2, when Jalen Miro, it was at the angle when Corey Brooks caught the ball. 2 years later, Jalen Miro threw the ball to Isaiah Bond. It was on the left at a corner.
Yeah.
And number 3, Georgia fans probably want to forget this. Remember, it was second and 26. And then tour to Devontae Smith. Same thing.
Back
Auburn. Now you feel how Georgia feel.
Yeah.
4th and 31. A Hail Mary pass.
Yeah.
Broke Auburn's heart. Now, Auburn, now you know how I feel, how Georgia felt.
I saw, I'm sure everybody saw the reaction of, fans, on social media watching the outcome of that game. One of my favorite ones is not only the guy who kind of jumps up and his legs go way up in the air and he's screaming and he's fired up, but I love the one on Twitter too of the UPS delivery man. He comes in and he delivered a package literally right at the time of 4th and 31. So the family, of course, welcomes him in to watch the last second of the game. And they were like, he not only delivered the package, but delivered the 4th and 31. So there's that viral image going around of the UPS delivery man inside watching 4th and 31. So many great reactions of that game. All right. So Brian, tell me your early thoughts about Alabama versus Georgia. I mean, there's a ton of storylines. You have Brock Bowers, who didn't play. I think he played maybe 1 or 2 plays against Georgia Tech, but he's going to be healthy for this game 100%. Georgia is clearly the team to beat. Bama's playing such great football. The Iron Bowl is the Iron Bowl. The score doesn't even matter. They win that game and that's it. Just win. But going in this game, what's your early take on Alabama versus Georgia?
Man, Kyle, I've been an Alabama fan since I was born, bro. Mm-hmm. But right now, I think Georgia is disrespecting Alabama. Alabama's been disrespected all season. We are we've been so disrespected, man. Every game, they say we couldn't beat. They didn't want us to be here. We didn't supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. They don't give us no credit. They don't give us no respect. Mm-hmm. I think the media, the college community, they are afraid of Alabama. Mm-hmm. They are afraid. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this. This is probably the national championship.
Yeah.
Everybody's eyes are glued on this game. But let me tell you like this here. What Auburn did, and it's an Iron Bowl, Auburn threw everything, including that kitchen sink. That's what they're going to do. Alabama, Auburn is the only thing they're on a mission to do is defeat Alabama. We are chasing championships. Auburn just want to stop Alabama. Auburn was the gatekeeper to Georgia. But we need to get our defense in order because Jesus Christ, man, Auburn shredded that defense, bro. I ain't going to lie to you. And what we need to do, stop Big Brock Bowers. We need to stop the other tight end they keep talking about. The running game Georgia got looking good. We just need to prepare. We just need to prepare. And one thing, we like Georgia. I heard a couple of Georgia fans that I'm cool with, my brothers. They Georgia fans. They said they need this game more than everything. They said the hell with the championships they won. The only thing missing is defeating Nick Saban, defeating us in the SEC championship so they can solidify their dominance. We want our revenge from that national championship game.
Yeah.
And people don't know, Alabama owns the Georgia Dome and the Mercedes-Benz. Alabama looms. Alabama shadow looms in Atlanta. Alabama, since Tebow cried back in 2009, Alabama has not been beaten in an SEC championship. Can we keep that streak alive? It's on the line. It's a lot on the line, man. Whoever wins this game is not losing the playoffs. And one more thing, and back to that Iron Bowl, I got a couple of things I want to say. That catch from Burton, that was a catch.
Yeah.
They everything did not go Alabama's way. It's just like it was destined for Alabama to lose. I think we played our worst game the whole season, minus the South Florida game and the Texas game. They really they wanted Auburn to beat Alabama. It's something about Alabama the people just don't like. They're afraid. They want this dynasty to die. Everybody's saying Nick Saban needs to retire. Why you want him to retire? Why? Because y'all afraid because we're going to be dominant. If Saban reached 90 years old and he healthy enough to coach, let him coach. It don't matter. So it's Alabama versus the world. It always have been. That game proved what we did. We played in tough games. Look what we did since the Texas defeat. We played hard as hell, man. We beat Ole Miss. They said we couldn't beat Ole Miss. Bam, we beat them. Tennessee, we beat them. Bam, we beat them. Texas A&M, bam, we beat them. And LSU probably got the greatest quarterback in the country. We defeated him.
Yeah, and I think you bring up some really good points because never have I covered Alabama football and seen the amount of disrespect or felt that Alabama was really vulnerable to be beaten than this year, right? So I think it's been great for Nick Saban to have that reverse rat poison because every single week, I mean, you're right, like they couldn't do it at Texas A&M, they couldn't do it against LSU, right? Like these were going to be games that they were going to be upset, and I think even going into this game is again like, look, Alabama is the underdog in this game. And like you pointed out, you know, they've been the SEC champ. They've won these type of games. Nick Saban was asked about this on Sunday during his SEC teleconference and said, look, we don't necessarily think about, you know, beating Georgia in those games. The game that I think about is the game that Georgia beat us in the title game. So, look, these teams know what's at stake. And I think the great thing about this season is Alabama has been battle tested. Georgia has played better against, you know, the later part of the season. Their first part of the season was just super easy. And we all know that was a kind of a cupcake type schedule, but they have showed that they are the team that is number one. And I think overall, when you look to their resume, the 3-0 against top 25 and how they've been playing, I think with Alabama, if Alabama is able to beat this team, this certainly gives Alabama such a great shot to make the playoffs. But I got to run to my next call. Thank you very much for calling in. I really appreciate it. Please call again next time.
Before I let you go,
100%.
Before I let you go, to the Georgia fans who thinking they gonna be an easy cakewalk because we had a fight with Auburn. Auburn gonna fight us no matter what.
100%. Yes.
But let me say this: this ain't gonna be easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this like I've been saying this for years. Y'all gonna have to kill us to beat us.
100%.
And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yep.
Roll Tide, man. God bless you, my brother.
All right, man. Thank you so much. God bless you too, man. Thank you so much. Roll Tide to you. All right, we got a 412-251 and a 601 coming up right next here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys joining. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We got some great stuff coming your way today on Monday, November 27th. Be sure and look for Coach Saban's press conference at 12 p.m. You got Kirby Smart's press conference. You got Jalen Milroe and a couple of other Alabama players that will be at the podium. So look for those interviews, clean audio, nice uploads right here on Bama Football on YouTube. With that said, we go right back to the phone lines. Keep it rolling. 412. Let's do it. All right. Thank you very much for being patient.
Kyle,
yeah. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Kyle, this is Ty calling from Pittsburgh.
Hey, thank you very much for being patient. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the show, man. Take it away.
Hey, I'm from Alabama. I grew up in Bessemer, a longtime Bama fan, way back in the 1960s when they had Dave Brungard and Johnny Musso at running back. Now, I just want to talk about a couple of things. Alabama is actually a year ahead of schedule. I think Saban was building this team for the first 12-team playoff.
Great point.
But it caught fire, so now all of a sudden they're part of the championship, mix.
Love it.
I think the rankings, they'll shake out after this weekend when all the games are done. But Ohio State right now, they should be below Alabama and Texas both because, back in the old days or back when they did things the right way, when you lost a high-stakes game like that, you dropped. And they should have dropped it behind the teams that all won this weekend. But I think there's still some Alabama fatigue going back to last year and a couple of years ago. And that's what this committee has, Alabama fatigue. So any way they can see fit, they're trying to keep Alabama out of the championship mix, just like they did last year with TCU. And with that being said, I also think that the referees are somewhat complicit because if you look at the Alabama game this past weekend, first play of the game on the kickoff when there was the face mask penalty that was uncalled, there was also a block in the back. Now, even if they had called the face mask penalty, those two penalties would have nullified each other, in my opinion. I think they would have canceled each other out as fouls on both teams. But CBS, Gary Danielson, they were overzealous in talking about that for who knows how long. Now, you fast forward later on in the first quarter, Isaiah Bond, when Alabama was up 7-0, Isaiah Bond was interfered with in the end zone. He was pulled in the back when he was going for a pass. They didn't call it. Alabama had to settle for a field goal. Later on, remember when they had a 3-minute motion and only in Canadian football can 3 guys go in motion at one time.
100%.
But they called Alabama for offside. And you listen to the CBS announcers, they were like, well, I think you can't do that. And they said, let's get Gene Steratore in here. Gene Steratore never showed up. He never showed up to explain that you can't have 3 men in motion. So you're sitting there saying, okay, what is going on with this game? Because, yes, there were inconsistent calls on both sides of the ball, but there were more inconsistent calls when it came to Alabama. And those things like the 3-minute motion really stood out. It's like, man, they're really trying to hand Auburn this game. So Alabama, these guys really have to suck it in and try their best to try to just like stay in it until the end of it. Now, I was in Philadelphia at the time, my daughter's house, and we were all watching the game, my daughter, my wife, and, my son-in-law and my other daughter. And they all thought Alabama was going to lose. But I'm thinking, just like the last caller said, I'm thinking some strange things are going on here because there's something about Alabama when they wear their white uniforms that it's something with them. You go back to 2nd and 26. You go back to 2 years ago with Jordan Hare. You go back to there was a Georgia-Alabama championship game a few years ago when Eddie Lacy was playing. And I remember Alabama was behind in the last drive, and the offense got together on the sideline, and they just like, let's go take this game. And they just steamrolled down the field. Well, when the ball was snapped and it went 18 yards back and Milroe picked it up and he fell, I'm thinking to myself, this is eerily similar to 2nd and 26. I just thought that to myself because everybody else in my household was saying, well, the game's over now. And I'm thinking, well, maybe this is over. I got to suck it up. And with Alabama not having a shot, and I know the SEC, I know football is going to be mad that Alabama and Georgia is not as high stakes as it could be. But that thought I had in my mind was like, this guy is going to somehow pull this game out. And then it happened. And, you know, as opposed to what I did in 1986 when Van Tiffin kicked the field goal when I was living in Boston at the time, I jumped up and actually cut my hand on a light when he made the field goal. This time I was just actually calm about it because I'm so used to Alabama being able to pull games out in the final analysis that, you know, I was just totally calm, but still in shock. And the funny thing about all the memes going around, my daughters, who are not necessarily big-time football fans, but they know I've always been an Alabama fan, they were just like sitting there laughing at the images on the screen of the Auburn fans swaying back and forth, crying. You know? So that itself I thought was that was very telling. And the thing about watching, so I tried to absorb as much as I could after the game, like the post-game shows. Mm-hmm. And I'm even watching Chris Doreen and Benjamin Watts on the SEC Network. And I am sick of the shade that they always throw because even Benjamin Watts, he's a former tight end, Chris Doreen's a former wide receiver. They both said, well, Isaiah Bond did push off at the end. I'm like, why are you guys even trying to say he pushed off when it was hand fighting going on the whole time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like the Alabama shade and the Alabama fatigue is for real. Now, when you get to the Georgia game, Kyle, I think there's some big factors here. First of all, the reason Kirby Smart doesn't acknowledge Alabama, in my opinion, is because if you want to build your own legacy, you can't really address the Alabama situation or Nick Saban all the time because he's trying to build his own legacy. Mm-hmm. So I think in part that's why he shuns Alabama at this point. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten a guy. Georgia is Alabama East because what's the strength and conditioning guy? He's at Georgia. He's been there for a number of years, and he's Scott Cochran. Yep. And he's doing the same things with the Georgia players as he did with Alabama. Mm-hmm. But there's something about being the original that you can't duplicate.
Yep.
And there's a quiet confidence that Nick Saban exudes that Kirby Smart doesn't have, and he'll probably never have because he comes off as a little high strung, and I'm not saying he's disingenuous. I'm not saying that, but I just think that he's trying to build his own legacy and do it his own way in his own style. So you really can't talk about the guy who got you there. You almost have to ignore it. Like, okay, I did this on my own. So that's what he's trying to build. 3 in a row would be unprecedented. I don't think they'll get there, but I do think that if he does get there, it still doesn't top what Alabama and Nick Saban has done, winning 6 championships, 7 all time with the one at LSU. I don't think that tops that but the unfortunate thing is people who have short memories and they only think about what's happening right now. You know, because what he hasn't done is what Nick has done, what no other coach has done, in my opinion. How many head coaches, lose coordinators almost every year, and they keep on rolling, winning 10, 11 games per year. Mm-hmm. Look what happened to Dabo Swinney. We lost Jeff Levy, when he lost, what's the guy's name at Oklahoma? Brent Venables. He lost Brent Venables. Mm-hmm. He hasn't been the same since he lost his defensive coordinator. He lost Tony Elliott to Virginia. The offense hasn't been the same. Mm-hmm. You know, he got the players, but it hasn't been the same. Nick Saban has replaced coordinators. Yes, he's had hit and misses, but even though he's had hit and misses, he's always in the mix of the championship at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. That hasn't happened at Georgia yet, except Dan Lanning. He did leave. Dan Lanning left, you know, but that was early on in his tenure. But Nick has had this happen almost every other year when someone takes his coaches or they hire his coaches. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't missed a beat yet. Now, so far as the game is concerned, Kyle, I think I want Alabama to win in a desperate way, but I really think this is a Georgia team that can beat this Alabama team because at inopportune times, some things crop up. Like I didn't expect them to get run on the way they did this week against Auburn. Although Auburn used a lot of traps and misdirections, and I think a running quarterback always gives Alabama trouble for whatever reason. That's always been their Achilles heel. I just think they have the X factor that can trump Alabama. The X factor being you got to find a way to stop those tight ends. Mm-hmm. And Brock Bowers is almost unstoppable if you allow him to take over the game. So with that being said, if Alabama can get off the field, if they can stop making mistakes in terms of penalties, and if the referees will let them play, I'm not saying let the player on both sides play. I'm saying if they let Alabama play, then I think it's an even game. The X factor is Brock Bowers and
in my opinion, the referees. If that doesn't, if they let them play, Alabama has a more than fighting chance to win this game. You know, I do think that the college football world wants to see Georgia win this game. I don't think they want to have that Alabama headache. But in my opinion, if Alabama wins this game, there is no way you keep them out of the college playoff, because if you beat number one, how can you not be at least number 3 or number 4?
100%.
If not number 2.
100%.
So that's my take on the Cal. And I really think that Alabama's going to bring its A game. I think a lot of people have been surprised, as I have been, by Jalen Milroe. I did think in spring training, I thought that Ty Simpson was the best option, although to me at the time, and even still now, he still doesn't have exactly a college body yet. He still needs to put some weight on and do some strength training. But in terms of passing, in terms of running the Alabama offense, I think he has everything what it takes. But what Jalen Milroe has become, and I talked to my son who lives in Boston, he thinks Jalen Milroe is Michael Vick 2.0, basically, in a sense. And that guy, make no mistake about it, he is a quarterback. He is not some running back playing quarterback. That guy is a quarterback. And I think if they continue to build around him and they continue to build the offensive line, because they still haven't, the offensive line is gelled, but they're not what they're going to be in the future. And they're going to be scary in 2012. And see, here's the thing I think about Alabama in closing. I think that I always thought to myself, okay, 4 teams, when they went to a 14 playoff system, I'm like, well, we'll always be in there because there's no way Alabama's not going to be top 4. But then here comes the committee with all these, different, things you have to do to be considered top 4. Now I'm thinking, how are you going to keep Alabama out of top 12? I mean, maybe with Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC, that might be a way to do it. But I still think it's going to be difficult to keep Alabama out of top 12 year in and year out, as long as Nick Saban's the coach and whomever else comes after him. So that's my take, Kyle. I mean, I look forward to a good game. I do think I give Georgia the edge. I think the 4-point spread is correct. And if Alabama doesn't beat Alabama, Alabama wins.
Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Please call again next time. I appreciate the call from Pittsburgh by way of Alabama. Really good context. I agree with some of your points. I'm going to talk about them, one of them when I get off the line. But again, have a great week. I'll be on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. So if you want to call back later in the week, I'd appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Take it easy. One of the points that he hit on that I want to talk about is the fact that he's absolutely right in the fact that Alabama probably this team, I think Coach Saban was building up this team maybe for a run next year. Of course, you're always trying to win the national title game every single year, but this team started to develop a lot better and started to get really good and is now kind of playing like next year's team. This is kind of a preview of next year. I think they're even going to be better, right? You look at all the sophomores and how they've developed now playing more like juniors, right? And I think that's a really good point about this team next year is going to be ferocious. I get it. You're losing a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball, but there's a lot of players on defense that we haven't seen yet. There's 2 freshmen, particularly Keon Keeley and Yanzi Pierre. Can you imagine when those guys get their first taste of action, following Chris Paroswell and Dallas Turner, along with some other guys that I think are going to really step up next year. I mean, we don't necessarily know, the status of some of these guys, if they're going to leave or not. In fact, the only seniors that have to leave, I think, are Will Reichard and Darian Dalcourt. So a lot of these seniors that are on the roster right now have that COVID year. So a lot of guys could come back based on their draft grade. And even a guy like Jermaine Burton. Did you know Jermaine Burton, if he wanted to, he could come back? He has a COVID year. So think about next year's team. Talk about absolutely loaded. Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. I really appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate the calls and catching up, talking college football with you guys each and every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. We will go to Demetrius right now out in North Carolina. Hey, Demetrius, I appreciate you calling in, man. Let's get to it. I got, a few minutes on the show. You guys hang tight because we got a 251 and 608-864. I'm going to try to get you guys in before I bounce out to the university to set up my gear. So what I do every single Monday is I do my show and I pack up all my gear and then I head to the university to get ready for Coach Saban, which is at 12 p.m. So Demetrius, hit on a couple points about Alabama and Auburn, and then your early take on Alabama and Georgia. And I really appreciate you calling in this morning. Go ahead, Demetrius.
Hey, how you doing this morning, Kyle? Roll Tide. I'm hit on the point. But go back to check the comment section on the Hugh Freeze, I'm ticked off. I left a comment in there that Hugh Freeze dropped that New Mexico State game on purpose. Simple fact, because he wanted to beat the Alabama game up for recruiting purposes and to build his resume up like I can hang with Nick Saban. End of discussion. I keep saying it over and over again. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, they don't get every team best game.
Mm-hmm.
We get every team best game week in, week out. End of discussion. As far as Kirby Smart, hey, I still got some a bad taste in my mouth about him stealing the recruit, taking pictures of the recruiting board, going around showing it to recruits, saying, well, this is what Nick Saban think of you, and he handpicked a couple of recruits. Mm-hmm. It ain't like he came in like Nick Saban on a mediocre at best Alabama team and built them up. Georgia was already a 10-win team every year. I mean, what I mean, he's an arrogant little. I ain't gonna say that word, but he's, come on, you got to give somebody some respect or putting you in a position. It wasn't like you were gonna get the Georgia job anyway. Mm-hmm. But back to the game, it went. I'm kind of disappointed, but that's to expect out of the Auburn game because going up against Hugh Freeze, we have so far the defense. It's the offense have notoriously let us down by keep lingering around, stall drive after stall drive, not putting points on the board. Look, I mean, I don't know if this team caught it yet. Cannot do that. Mm-hmm. Everybody's gunning for you. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm a land my plane. As far as this SEC championship, it depends. Like Coach said yesterday, it depends on which Jalen gonna show up. Mm-hmm. If Peyton Manning show up, Georgia gonna beat us. If the Jalen Hurts that played that when Tua got hurt in the SEC championship game that gave Georgia all they didn't have no answer for show up, we blow them out by 21 points. Mm-hmm. And you can say I don't care what it is, what team. If when Alabama get out of Alabama's way, we can beat the best team on their best day by 3 scores. Mm-hmm. Easy. Mm-hmm. It just is what it is. Mm-hmm. That's what kind of coach we have. That's what kind of culture we done created. And that's all I got to say. I'm called back in this week. I'm letting some other people in. But Roll Tide and Kirby Smart and all the rest of them are frauds. And they ought to give – I'm going to say this and I'm going to hang up. All these coaches need to give Nick Saban at least 50% of their salary because they wouldn't be getting paid this much if it weren't for Nick Saban. And look how I done totaled it up. It's been close to over $150 million that's been paid out in buyouts of coaches' contracts, all because they can't beat Nick Saban in Alabama. Mm-hmm. Roll Tide, and y'all have a good one. I'm going to listen to the rest of it on the YouTube right here.
All right, Demetrius. All right, Roll Tide team, man. Be safe on the road, man. We appreciate you calling in. Demetrius out from North Carolina. Who knows where he's at? He's driving all across the country, bringing in the goods probably that we're all ordering from Amazon. So we appreciate you, Demetrius. And we got a 251-601-864. Try to get to you guys before I dip out real quick. So when you guys call in, let's make the points and let's move on so we can get some callers in on the back end of the show. 251, let's get it. Hey, thanks for calling in. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, man, it's Robert from Mobile again.
Hey, what's up, Robert? I appreciate you calling in, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, regarding Georgia, I hope Alabama feels, and they play it feel disrespect factor. Mm-hmm. And, that's unfortunately it takes that to get them motivated, but there's a legit reason to feel that way. The media's going to make you feel disrespect if nobody else. So, Nick Saban, let them watch everything ESPN and everybody else is saying how bad you are and how you can't win all week long. Going back to the game, people tend to forget Georgia struggled the exact same way Alabama did. Mm-hmm. They allowed 219 yards rushing on them, exact same way Alabama did. Mm-hmm. The only difference was that they had that same score. Auburn just had a few more points. So, same results. So, if anybody and I know Curry Smart didn't take any stock in what happened. He's smarter than that. But for those Georgia fans who are, watch your own game and show me the difference. Mm-hmm. The only difference is it didn't take a miracle play at the end. All right. Yeah, you didn't have that going for you. But you also didn't have 2 touchdowns taken away for penalties. You also didn't have a referee to saying your man was out when he was in. So, a lot of stuff. You'd have any of the crap Alabama had to deal with. and we still managed to win the game. Still, everybody's calling it the grave digger. So I guess that plays the grave digger because that's what they say to play. That's what they say. That's what they say it is. And the man who caught the ball, that's what he says it is. I'd like fourth and forever, but the man said he caught the ball, called the grave digger. It plays the grave digger. It shouldn't have been 4th and 31 to begin with. And Nick Saban on his show last night pointed it out as well. He admitted, hey, Miro made a bad call by not running when he had an open field. He said you probably got to the 5-yard line if you run. So hopefully that the indecisiveness on his running will end in the next against Georgia. Use all your skills you got. I mean, we have the ability, use it. Let's not see you with open field and not take it again. We rewatched that. It was kind of disturbing, all that open field he didn't take, and so hopefully that's out of his mind. But the pass, goodness gracious, there is no quarterback in the history of football that could have thrown a better pass than that. And period. There's no quarterback in the history of football that could have lasered that in better than Miro did. So, I mean, he shouldn't have come to that, but it was a beautiful thing to see. All right, man.
All right, Robert, before you go, man, please call in again when we have more time to discuss more events revolving Alabama and Georgia, because I want to get your take on this SEC title game. You're one of our top callers, man. So please, if you got time later on this week, man, please call in again. I appreciate it. All right, we got a 601. We'll just jump right into it. Yeah, I appreciate you calling in. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson, who I'm on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
I'm on the college, Jay from Pensacola.
Hey, what's up, Jay? I appreciate you calling in, man. Hope all is well, man. Let's get right to it, man. Where were you on 4th and 31, man? Walk us through it.
Yeah, I'm in Virginia. I'm in Richmond, and I'm standing up in my truck. I'm yelling. I'm like, ain't no bleep way, ain't no way this is gonna happen. And then my wife, she doesn't watch football at all, but she called me and asked me about it, and I was like, and she said it was so intense. She said, see, that's why I don't watch football, cause my heart done got bad. I said, I agree, my heart bad too. I'm seeing her beating on my TV. I'm beating on my. I said, ain't no way. I said, it's down to the last minute. I said, we got to get this. If we don't get this, it doesn't matter. If we lose this, it don't matter if we beat Georgia or not, because we're not getting in. But we did it. I was pissed. I was pissed because of the bad snap. I was like, man, come on. But I feel like all this was set up. I want to say, I feel like there's some Indian graveyards that Jordan Howard digged up under, because ain't no way. Every time we go down there, we play with confidence in every game. Besides this game, we was off the whole game. Well, we was off, and I'm like, what are you doing? Not tackling. Trez Marshall is just leaving gaps open. It was a lot, and I just feel like it was some voodoo shit going on. I'm sorry, voodoo stuff going on. And it was a lot of crazy stuff going on. But with the Georgia game, SEC championship, if Alabama can do the 3 Ps, practice, preparation, and prepare, if they can do that, I feel like we got that game won in the bag. I also feel like how last time it was in there, how people everybody and their mama picked Georgia to win the SEC championship when we played them. Everybody did. And you know what? And I loved it. I be loving it, because every time they do that, we prove everybody wrong. And then they go and say, "Oh, we was wrong about Alabama." Yeah, we know that. But I watching the Paul Pom and the other dude, and it was saying the same thing. And Josh Pate said the same thing. He said the Alabama team that play Auburn is not going to be the same Alabama team that play Georgia. And the same Georgia team that played Georgia Tech is not going to be the same team that play Alabama. So it all depends on how we can execute every play right. And I mean, hell, we can even let Brock Bowers run wild if we want to, as long as we do our job and on the offense, and we get our stops, we can win this. But that's how I call it to you, Kyle, and I'll talk to you later on in the week.
All right, man. All right, take it easy, Demetrius. Thank you so much for calling in, bro. All right, that was I'm sorry, that was Jay in Pensacola. My bad, Jay. We got let's see. I'm gonna try to squeeze this one in at 864. Hey, thanks for being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Brent from South Carolina.
Hey, Brent, what's up, man? I appreciate you calling in this morning. You know what? I have to tell you, when people call in from different parts of the country, I love South Carolina. I had the opportunity to go to Hilton Head, and I love to play golf in the springtime, of course, in the summertime. And I was able to go out there, played some really nice golf courses in Hilton Head. And then I was actually able to drive down to Savannah, Georgia. And I'd never been to Savannah before, so it was really cool. I heard that I think it's Greenville is really cool that I definitely want to check out. So, yeah, I think it's beautiful. And then, of course, Charleston, my goodness. I mean, I think Charleston is just amazing. But anyways, I appreciate you calling in, man. Welcome to the show. Take it away.
All right, on that Auburn game, oh my God, I was on pins and needles the whole time, man. It was that 4th and 31, man. Oh my God, I saw Milroe hop a couple of times, and then when I saw that helmet cut to the right, I was like, he found somebody.
Yeah.
And luckily, it was Isaiah Bond, right?
Yep.
But I was so hyped from that play, I missed the ending of the game. They said he stepped out of bounds and all that. I missed all that.
Well, I was thinking about 2 points so 2 points on the ending of that game, right? Because the thing about it was, how many people do you think turned off the TV after the bad snap or like walked away? I was talking on my Sunday show, and a lot of people admitted that they did, right? So a lot of people probably didn't even see the 4th and 31 live, and then after that, the last touchdown, because the way that the game was transpiring, it looked like Terrion Arnold's foot was out of bounds, but there was like everyone has been saying, there was so many touchdowns. Think about this: the Terrion Arnold touchdown, the Amari Niblack touchdown, the Kendrick Law touchdown, and the missed field goal by Will Riker all took place in that game. Right? How many times this season have we seen touchdowns be called back on a team? This is by far the record. Honestly, I think if there's any, Jarvis would be maybe, I don't know if Jarvis, because he loves stats inside the comment box, or somebody, David from Louisiana. How many touchdowns have been called back on Alabama? That's our trivia for today. Maybe we'll follow that up on Tuesday. I have never seen this amount of touchdowns be called back on a team.
We got to get better refs, man. I don't know what's going on with the referee situation. It's crazy. It's like, how do you not see this?
Man.
But on to the SEC championship, I still have bad blood from Indianapolis. I'm still thinking about Indianapolis, and I want them to crush Georgia.
Yeah. What's your early take on Alabama, Georgia? Like, when you just kind of think of themes of the games, is there more to stopping Brock Bowers? Is it Kirby Smart? Is it the three-peat that Georgia's trying for? What's on your mind when you look to this game?
Revenge is on my mind.
Yeah,
because like I said, I'm still thinking about Indianapolis when they got us to that championship a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But all the Georgia fans around this part of South Carolina, they're so egotistical, and I just want to drop them down a peg.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, and I've been asking everybody this, so does a win, you got to beat them, but does a win get Alabama into the playoffs? If you beat the number one team that's riding a 29-game winning streak, I mean, does that get Alabama into the playoffs, or does that keep Georgia in the playoffs? Because I haven't even checked the All-State playoff predictor, but last week it said that even if Georgia didn't win the SEC title, they still have a 76% chance to get in. I need to look at the numbers after this, but who gets in after the SEC title game?
If Alabama beats Georgia, I do not see any way that Georgia gets in. So many one-loss teams this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you take down the number one team in the country, you have to push them forward. In my mind, that's what I say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the committee's going to have to flip a quarter on that one, but I hope it comes to our way. But
yeah, I think. When you look to the when you look to before you go, let me show you guys the one-loss teams, because I think this is a good graphic to look at. I think what I did was I put together the current teams and how they have fared against top 25 teams. And I think it's worth looking at, because when you look to this particular graphic right here, and these are alpha order, I didn't insert it, listed by any particular team. And by the way, thanks for the super chat. PK205 says the one thing that Kirby will do that Saban refuses to do is play zone. And then appreciate the super chat. And then Marcel is saying, I wouldn't overreact with the win for Auburn. It was a rivalry game, 100%. I mean, who knows about that? And I said going into that game, who knows? It's just throw out the records, especially at Jordan Hare, it's crazy. But here are the teams that they have fared against top 25 teams. Yeah, 100%. You're going to get.
We always get every team best.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. So Alabama 3-1 against top 25 teams, as you can see on the graphic. Florida State 1-0, Georgia 3-0, Michigan 2-0, Ohio State 2-1, Oregon 1-1, Texas 1-1, Washington 2-0. Before you go, is this Florida State team the same team without Jordan Travis? I think the simple answer is no. But I mean, Florida State on the verge of being 13-0. Give me your final take on a team like Florida State outside of Alabama, Georgia. I would just be curious to hear your take on Florida State.
I don't without Travis, I don't think they go forward. I mean, you really can't, because all that man's accolades is on him, not their quarterback now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just don't think they could beat none of those top 4 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't either. 100%.
It's got to be competition in the game.
Yep, and you got
last year's national championship was trash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to put the best teams as of today inside the playoffs. But anyways, I appreciate you calling in from South Carolina. Please call again. I'll be on live Monday through Friday every day at 9 a.m. So I really appreciate you calling in, and thank you for your support.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide, baby.
Roll Tide to you, man. All right, take it easy. Hey, if I didn't get to you today, try me again on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I appreciate you guys. I'm actually headed out to Atlanta. As I told you, I got media creds for this game. Didn't get creds for that last game against the Iron Bowl, but it's all good. Still was able to get the content to you guys. I really appreciate your guys' continued support. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. You got the Coaches Show on Monday night that you can check out with Coach Smoot, Coach Sean, and Coach Jarek, and all the coverage back on Bama football on YouTube. You got Coach Saban's press conference. You got Jalen Milroe. You got Kirby Smart up at the podium as we get you ready for Alabama versus Georgia. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My name is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. 96,000 strong. I appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. I will catch you guys soon right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Have a fantastic Monday. See you guys soon.